Hi, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. Well, I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. It's very quiet on the homestead right now, not a lot of special projects going on, especially today. Today's Sabbath. So I wanted to tell you a little story from years gone by. Something I'm very thankful that the Lord protected me in. So at that time, I was a single mom, and my son was, I'm guessing, about 5 years old. Jason was about 5. And I got a job in a little convenience store, which little convenience stores, there's usually just one person working at a time, because that's all they can afford. So I was working one day, and I had the late shift, the afternoon until 1 o'clock in the morning. I would close at 1 o'clock in the morning, lock up the store, and leave. And that was okay. It wasn't necessarily my favorite. I would have liked to have had somebody else around, because it was late at night. But it was fine. Now, the only thing was, there had been a rash of robberies and break-ins going on for about 2 weeks. It hadn't hit the end of the town that I was at, though. So I was thankful, but, it was a concern. So one night, as I was working, a group of people came into the store, and they were very excited. And they said, "Did you hear Penny Pincher down the road just got hit?" Now, Penny Pincher's gas station was very, very close to the little convenience store that I worked at. And I said, "What do you mean?" "An armed robbery. They just had an armed robbery." Now, that was concerning to me. And I said, "Did they get the people?" And the response was, they got one. There were 2 of them. I said, "What about the one with the gun? Did they get the one with the gun?" And they said, "No, that one got away." That was not impressive to me. So a few minutes later, in came the police, and they began questioning me, because when one of the robbers got out, receipt from the store I was working at fell out, dated for that evening, and showed that I'd sold them some Mad Dog wine. So that's MD wine, if you don't know. I wouldn't have known if I hadn't worked there. Now, that's what convenience stores sell a lot of tobacco and alcohol. Not necessarily my favorite thing to sell, but when you are looking for a job, sometimes you don't get your choice, and that's where I was. I did, though, like working stores. I always did. So in a few minutes, the police came, and they began questioning me about, "Who did you sell the MD wine to tonight?" Well, I didn't have any idea. It was a Friday night. I had sold a lot of wine and a lot of beer that night. And the truth is, my circle of friends did not include those that were doing a lot of drinking, or really any drinking. So I didn't know most of these people. I had no idea, so I wasn't any help. So I asked them if they'd got the second person yet, and they let me know no, they hadn't. They were looking. And I said, "I have a little boy at home. I close the store at midnight, and I will be ready to head out the door at 12:15. Can you please have somebody here because where I was, I had to park around the back end of not the very back, the side, but towards the back of the store. And it was totally isolated and totally dark there. And there was a hillside up behind it. There were just a lot of places that people could hide. And the person that had got away had got off on foot. So I said, please be here. So while I was in the store, I was really nervous because, as you know, there'd be an ebb and flow of customers come in. That's normal. But it's really well lit in the store. It's bright. And the whole front was glass, which is typical. So people could see me and what was going on in the store. But I could not see well out in the dark area. And so that gave me a lot of insecurity. Finally, it was time to close up the store, which I did. And I rushed around. I dropped the money down. We had a floor safe. Dropped the money, locked that in. And I began doing what side work that I could, because I didn't care if I didn't get all the way done at that point. Usually I was very careful. So I swept the floor and did that. But I didn't like the idea, that I could be being watched. And somebody could see I was in there by myself. That was just a very vulnerable feeling. Finally, it was 12:15, ready to leave. I was ready to leave. I looked out in that parking lot, and you know what I did not see? I did not see a police officer. So I would have been about 25 years old. Not that I would be super brave now, but maybe braver than then. And they weren't there. But I wasn't staying any longer. It seemed very dangerous to me. So I went out the door, locked it, went around the side, way to the back where my car was. And I got to tell you a little bit about my car. I called it a boat. I really don't remember the type, but it was huge, huge car. It was what I could afford. And it was just a bumpy sail ride when you were going. It was just so long. And although I guess it had been a beautiful red probably when it was new, it was a long way from new, and it had oxidized into this horrible pink color. But the worst thing about it that night was that the seals someplace on some window was not good. And this was wintertime, it had been raining. So if it was raining outside, it totally fogged up all the windows on the inside. So I could not see if it was fogged up in there just because of the normal things, or if it was fogged up in there because somebody was in there and breathing. But I did know that around that building, the back, I could not see. Up on the hill, I could not see people. And it seemed safer to me to get in the car than to continue standing out there. So I jumped in the car and locked the door, and then I turned around to make sure nobody was in the back seat, which, praise God, they were not. And I went home. The next day I had to work again. And I went and I talked to my boss. And I said, is there any way that you can have two of us working? Because, this is an ongoing thing. And it's so dangerous. And they said, we really can't. So I worked. And at the end of the day, I went home, and within about 15 minutes of me going home, and I think I forgot to tell you, I'm very sorry messing up. The police did come about 10 minutes after I left, and the store had been broken into. They'd jimmied it with a knife, the door, and got in and stole alcohol and cigarettes. So on the next night I worked, I was really nervous. They hadn't caught the people. And like I said, there had been an ongoing little crime wave of this. And part of the time they had guns when they were approaching people. Whoa, sorry, my cat about knocked over this tripod. So I worked and I got off, and about 15 minutes later, the people came back and they robbed the store again. This time, though, they broke out the windows and in the front door to get in. But I didn't know about it. I was at home, and I got a call in the morning from the police asking me to come in because they needed to question me. So I went ahead and I went in, and they informed me that I was the number one suspect. I was really shocked. I didn't even know that was a possibility, but I was the last person that was inside the store. So after they questioned me, I contacted my boss again one more time and asked again if they could please put somebody on, which they could not. So then I contacted the welfare office. See, even though I was working full time, my wage was so low that I was still able to get a little bit of cash assistance from the welfare, and I was able to get medical insurance, which I was really thankful for. And I told them at the welfare office, I need to be able to quit this job. They can't put on another person. And it's been hit 2 weeks in a row. And next time, they might do it while I'm in the store. And they said, sure, you can quit, but you will lose all of your benefits immediately. I couldn't afford that. So at this point, with my nerves, I began losing hair. It was the craziest thing, just from nerves. So I worked again the next weekend, and the place got robbed after I left again. I don't even know if they ever caught those people. What I do know is I decided I'm quitting, that the Lord had protected me 3 times, and that I felt like I had no choice. I needed to be looking for another job, no matter how it affected Jason and I. And so that's what I did. But what I want to say is how gracious God was that He protected me all that time. And that's just one case that I absolutely knew how much He loved me and how much He was working to make sure that Jason, little Jason's mama, got home to him each night. Well, anyhow, I hope you enjoy this story. I hope it makes you think about times that maybe God has protected you. And if you do, please leave me a comment, a sentence or two that tells me how he protected you. I would really appreciate that. Well, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I want to pray blessings on you and yours, in your house, out of your house, in the day and in the night. And whatever you do, keep dreaming. Good night. God bless you.